everyone, Cherie here. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to be creating this layout using the Oh Dear cut file from Kerri Bradford Studio, and what I've done is cut it out onto some plain white cardstock using my silhouette, and I've already cut that down to size so that I have a nice red border with that pattern paper behind it. Now I'm using the crepe paper Falala range of papers for this layout, and what I've done is already gone through and I've cut a strip from a good variety of those papers, and I've arranged them in what order I'm going to stick these down, because these are going to go underneath my white cardstock to make a really stripy, colourful deer. So what I'm going to do is just mark the top and bottom of the cut file so that I know where to start and stop my strips. So I know that I'll be starting around there, finishing around there. So I'm going to do that off camera shortly so that you don't have to watch me sticking all that down, and then I'll also be running a bit of stitching along each of those strips too. For this project I'll also be using the Kerri Bradford Studio Twinkle stamp set. I really love this set. There's so many fantastic images to use, so that's going to be a bit of fun as well. So I'll go and get these strips stuck down and I'll be back shortly to show you how it all looks. Okay, so those strips are now stuck down, and you can see I've added a little row of stitching on each of those strips. I didn't worry about that bottom one with any stitching because you won't see it once that cut file is on top anyway. And this top little piece was just for the very top of the deer's antler. So I didn't need a whole strip on there. So what I'll do is I'll speed the rest of the video up and show you how I'm going to finish off this page. Okay, so it's now time to stick this cardstock piece down over the top of those coloured strips. So I'm using my tape runner to add adhesive all the way around that deer, just so that I get everything stuck down really well. So just working my way around, making sure I don't miss any little spots, and then I can stick that piece down. Making sure I get it as centered as I can. And there we go, looking good. Okay, and my photo will just go just to the right of the deer there, but first I'm going to do a bit of stamping and embossing. I've got the Brooklyn stamp set there, as well as the Twinkle stamp set from Kerri Bradford Studio, and I'm going to use the JOY out of this set to make my title, which will be Joy. So I'm lining them up on my clear acrylic block. I'm trying to get them nice and straight, and I don't know why I bothered because I end up cutting these out later. So I'm using some Ranger Gold Tinsel embossing powder, and I'm going to stamp it first using my Versamark ink pad, sprinkle the embossing powder over the top, and I'll just add a little bit more to make sure I've got really good coverage, and then I can melt that with my heat gun. So it just takes a few seconds here and you'll see that transformation there. This is always the fun bit. There we go. Nice and shiny and sparkly now. And I do some more stamping off camera, and you'll see in a moment I've done that little floral sort of snowflake type piece on the left there. And now I'm going to do another stamp with the string of lights from the Twinkle stamp set. So I've got that stamp and I'm curving it on my block, so it's got a lovely curve, using my Versamark ink pad again, stamp it onto my scrap cardstock there, and then I'm going to sprinkle on that embossing powder again. Now I will stamp this a couple of times, and then I'm going to fussy cut all of these stamped pieces to use on my page. And these string of lights I'm going to, well, I'm planning on stringing those between the antlers on the deer right at the top of the page there, which you'll see very shortly. Okay, so just using my heat gun there to melt that embossing powder, and I'll put all that embossing powder back into the jar, and then I'll go and fussy cut those pieces, and there we go, they're all ready to use. So I've got the strings of lights up at the top of the antlers there, and now I'm layering up a few pieces behind my photo. So I've got a tag from my stash and a couple of die cuts which I'm putting behind the photo, and I'm just going to trim that tag down to size a little bit because it's just a bit too wide to be able to slip in and out behind my photo. So just making sure I'm getting that sizing correct before I stick it all down. Okay, so those pieces are going there, and I'm using some really thin double-sided tape on the very edge of my photo there so that my tag will be able to slip in and out well behind that photo. So the photo is going on now and my tag slips into place really well. So I'm happy with that, and now I can move on to adding a few more bits and pieces. Just a little bit more double-sided tape there because it wasn't quite stuck down well enough. So I've got another stamped piece, that strip that was along the bottom of the Twinkle stamp set, and I've just stamped that with a red ink out of my stash and pop that across the bottom there, and then my title can go onto the page as well. And I've got some foam tape behind those letters just so that they're popping off the page a little bit. And then I've got that 24 die cut because this photo was taken on Christmas Eve, so I thought that was appropriate. And now that other little stamped piece can go on there, and I've added a chipboard heart in the center of that as well. So I'm playing around with a few embellishments, and you'll see in a moment I did have that sequin there for the reindeer nose, but I do change that to a pom-pom a little bit later, which I thought was a bit of fun. So I'm adding a couple more stamps from the Twinkle set. It says Merry and Bright, and the other stamp that says 'Tis the season to be jolly, and then my date will go on there as well. Okay, so I'll staple that tail of twine into place, and I do add some more stitching around the outside edge of the white cardstock as well. And I'll also add, you'll see there's a couple of glittered stars and that little pom-pom nose as well. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing how this page has come together today. Please let me know if you've got any questions. I'll pop a link down below to Kerri Bradford Studio, and I'll leave you with these close-up photos. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.